Everyone, and welcome to Watch This Now. My name's Nick, and this is my review for It Chapter 2. You know what this is, but for the sake of it, let me do a little recap. This is, of course, the second portion of the film adaptation of Stephen King's epic novel, It. A book I started reading about 6 months before Chapter 1 came out, and I'm still working on it. But it's, of course, about a shape-shifting evil commonly known as Pennywise the Clown, and how it terrorizes a small town in Maine. Gary Doberman returns to write the screenplay for this one, and so does director Andy Muschietti, who did a great job with Chapter 1. But one of the main selling points is, of course, the upgraded cast with our Adult Losers Club, played by the likes of James McAvoy and Jessica Chastain. This movie is officially, basically, the horror movie event of the year. So I'm sure it's on your radar. I know I've been looking forward to it all year. I've been looking forward to it since Chapter 1 came out. I thought, how is this gonna work? If you're familiar with the source material or the TV miniseries from the early 90s, then you know just the second portion of this story is not that interesting with the Adult Losers Club. It's really more interesting to see how they're terrorized as children. As adults, it goes a little bit off the rails. So how does this film adaptation work with it? Let's find out. Right off the bat, this film has a brutal opening that doesn't quite set the tone for the rest of the film, but it is still quite effective at what it does. But as soon as we get to the title card, it's all bright and flashy like a Carnival Funhouse entrance, and that lets you know exactly what we're getting here. This movie was purely designed to be a big budget Hollywood horror event film, which is cool because how often does that happen? Never. This might be like the first time since the first It that we've seen a movie of this caliber, and just seeing it with a huge crowd last night was super fun in and of itself. Aside from the film, just the experience of it was incredibly cool. However, the film itself is not trying to break new ground in terms of storytelling, and instead ends up retreading a lot of what we've seen before in all of the Conjuring spin-off movies that Doberman has also written. Maybe Warner New Line, you might want to find like another writer like for some horror films. Maybe that would help you. But right from the beginning, we are introduced to what we are getting from this whole film, and that is non-stop jump scares all the time. This movie is loaded with scares. If you're here for the scares, trust me, there are plenty of them. However, I cannot guarantee that they're actually going to scare you. Honestly, I was watching It Chapter 1 the morning before I saw Chapter 2, and on repeat viewings, I kind of became sick of all the scares in the film because while they maybe were fun to see the first time in the theater, watching them over and over, they're just jump scares, really. Even though there's cool Pennywise stuff, there are very few scenes that are just plain full of cool imagery that you want to watch over and over again. There's, of course, the scene with Eddie at the house at Nebolt Street with Pennywise and all the balloons, and then you've got Bev in the bathroom with all the blood. Like, there's cool stuff there, but in between all of that is a whole ton of just someone either is about to open a door or walk around a corner or go head towards the dark, and then some creature pops out of nowhere, and it's silent for a moment, and then there's just a loud bang, and it starts shambling towards the central character. And that's just this film on repeat. It's just over and over and over again, and that's exactly what It Chapter 2 wants to do. It just wants to redo the same thing over and over, and at 2 hours and 40 minutes, it gets a little tiring. However, they could have taken a lot of that time and focused on the characters and not try to scare me with old naked ladies and slimy homeless people. There was a lot of interesting material that could have been mined for this film. However, it just feels pretty wasted in this plastic carbon copy, here you go, horror film. Now, like I said, it's still enjoyable in that it is essentially just a funhouse film. It just tries to take you on the roller coaster of screaming and then laughing. And I think you'll have a fun, enjoyable experience like I did with it. However, I have to say, I found that not only was this movie not very scary, it was way funnier than it was scary. And sometimes I was laughing with the filmmakers, other times, not actually. But there are way too many moments when a scare happens, and then immediately after, a character delivers a line of dialogue that is meant to be a joke. Sometimes it lands, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it's from a character that you just really don't expect to be making that actual joke in that moment. And it honestly really just deflates anything that could have been scary. There is a moment that occurs that I have to touch on because I have not heard anyone else mention it, and it really took me out of the movie. This was clearly supposed to be funny, and of course, I'm not going to spoil anything because I want you to have fun with it yourself, but let me just say that there is a moment when a character is approached by a ghoul and they get slimed on, but the film goes into slow-mo for this and starts playing that song that's like, just call me angel of the morning. I can't sing, of course, but it does that, and it felt like a moment from a YouTube video. Like they just inserted the song that you don't hear any other time in the film, just into this little portion to be funny, and I was just like, what is this? Are you kidding me? Like, I really want to say that Muschietti did a great job with directing because of so many other scenes in the film. However, that one little moment, that like 5 seconds, was so distracting. It has taken multiple points off of my overall grade for this film. It was that jarring and that stupid. Let's talk about one hot button topic about this film, and that is the flashbacks that include de-aged teenagers because, hey, puberty's hell, and these kids have grown up in a few years, and specifically Finn Wolfhard and Jack Dylan Grazer, who we have seen this year specifically in Stranger Things 3 and Shazam. Not only do they look a little different, more noticeably, their voices are different. And the way that they try to change the voices in this film, on top of how kind of weird that they look, it, again, really took me out of the film. I was just like, why? Why did we need to do this? There were a couple of things that I really enjoyed them including from the book that I thought, oh hey, that's cool, you didn't do it in the first one, so now you get to here. However, I felt like, again, we should have just been focusing on the adult losers, and by going back to scenes that we didn't get from Chapter 1, felt like a huge waste of time. I'm all for some good fan service. Like I just said, there are moments that I was really happy with, particularly a sequence with a young Richie and a giant Paul Bunyan, but overall, I didn't think things like that needed to be in the film. And that brings us to the topic of the second half of this material just really not working as well in a visual medium. I mean, a lot of us just thought, how is that going to work at all? I think one of the things that we all really liked about It Chapter 1 was the way it took the source material and switched formats to film in such an effective way, and that it trimmed what really didn't work for film and then added what did in order to make a smooth and great film experience. In It Chapter 2, it feels like everyone's just kind of having fun with it. Like, it's just like, yeah, screw it, we'll just throw this in there and that, we'll do this and that and this and that and all this, and it's just like, where is the focus here? Like, again, I do think Muschietti, for the most part, does a good job with the direction, but I really think they could have had, like, several more drafts of the screenplay before rushing into production. It just really shows that there isn't a clear focus on the story, because I think that there could have been some very simple changes made that would have smoothed things out and made for a better viewing experience and a more rewatchable and enjoyable film. One thing I have to touch on, I'll just say this again without spoiling anything, this movie is not afraid to kill people. And that's fun as a horror fan, right? You know you're gonna get some of the good stuff. But I have to say, it's at the expense of, again, story. And there are just some straight up homicides that occur in this film that are then just kind of forgotten about. They're just tossed aside, we never address them. People that probably should be going to the police station for at least a couple of hours, if not the hospital, it just doesn't happen. This film does have some sweet cameos, though, I will say, but if you don't know about them, I don't want to spoil them for you because they were spoiled for me, and if you just get to see it in your viewing experience, that might enhance it for you, so I'll let you discover that for yourself. Now let's talk about all of the characters individually. Yay! Let's start with Bill. He's an accomplished author and Hollywood screenwriter. He has a wife for a whole hot second until they're like, nope, we don't have time to deal with you, cut that. He does get a flashback that I thought was good. However, in hindsight, I'm realizing that it was just meant to enhance his survivor's guilt, and it's like, we spent all of Chapter 1 dealing with that character arc, now we're just going over it again, but more. This movie, unfortunately, just leaves James McAvoy with the only ability to show his great acting talent by stuttering a lot. Beverly is, of course, the fan favorite, because she's the one woman in the movie, and Jessica Chastain is, of course, great, I would say amazing, but she also doesn't have much to do because no one really has anything to do in this movie. It's just be scared by Pennywise and then crack a joke about it. But Chastain is totally game for all of the horror stuff in this movie. Everything that is thrown at her, she takes like a champ. And I'm really glad that they didn't shy away from a lot of the tougher material in the book. It certainly isn't explored as well as it should have been, but I'm glad that it wasn't just cut and just like, yeah, everything's hunky-dory. It's like, no, she's living a rough life. Again, she didn't get that much to do, but I totally noticed in this one scene where twice you see her like smoking a cigarette with a shaky hand as a tear rolls down her face. I'm like, I see you in that editing, punching up the acting. I'm here for it. Do it more. Richie is the main standout though, because Bill Hader is amazing. He is amazing. He really does take his little material that he's given and really makes it quite effective. I feel like there was an actual story just with Richie because of his acting, even though I have to say it does take liberties with the source material, and I didn't quite love it, although it's being praised for its representation, but okay. Again, it's all Hader. He just does such a good job that even though I'm like, I could nitpick through like an entire video, but like, he did good, and honestly his performance, even if the material isn't that great, his performance makes it rise above, and is honestly worth seeing the movie for that alone, personally, just Bill Hader's performance. But I also have to give it up for James Ransone, who I've liked as a character actor in so many little things, but I thought that he was just the perfect adult Eddie, like, looks-wise, spot on, but then also as an actor, I was like, oh, he's gonna crush it. And he did! He doesn't have a lot to do, like many of them, and of course he has that one awful scene that I think is the worst scene in the film, but it's not his fault. I think he really does his best with Eddie. And another one of the better parts of the film, I would say. Then there's Ben, who exists, who even in the book, again, I haven't finished it, but I could tell his entire character arc was fat as a kid, becomes skinny and successful as an adult, and always has a thing for Beverly. That's still here. I'll give it to Jay Ryan. I thought that his abs were impressive, for sure, but he has to shoulder the entire love triangle situation because all of the chemistry is between Jessica Chastain and James McAvoy, and you just see in shots just Jay Ryan in the back just like watching, like, are you kidding me, Bev? Like, we have a connection. I wrote you a poem! So yeah, he's almost the most underserved character. The most underserved character is 100% Mike, who definitely has more to do than the character did in Chapter 1, but here, he's kind of the new Bill, but also, like, super cray-cray, and makes some very questionable decisions. He's made out to be pretty awful in a lot of the decision-making that he does in this film, and I thought it was, like, way more justified in the book from some of the stuff I read. It just, like, worked a lot better, and Mike is just the crazy one in the middle of all of it, and I think Isaiah Mustafa does, like, a good job with the material that's given. Of course, all of the actors, I think, did a pretty good job, but it's just the material. I don't know how it got them to sign on this screenplay, to be perfectly honest. I am just like, what? Like, okay. A lot of money. Just a lot of money thrown at this one. Yeah, It Chapter 2 has a serious case of sequelitis. That's how I look at it. There are so many things in this movie where it's like, we're doing it bigger and better. Aren't you loving it? Remember Chapter 1? Do you remember this scene in Chapter 1? But wait, there's more. And like these add-ons and extended scenes and things that are supposed to enhance the overall experience. And it actually feels like, nope, we're actually just shoehorning stuff in there. And it's a real bummer because it's like, no, that was stuff that was really good in the book that you just didn't do the first time around. And now you're like, yeah, second portion sucks. Let's just squeeze this stuff in here. And it really doesn't work. Again, I just think that there should have been a lot more shifting done in order to turn that material into something that plays well on screen, which is what worked really well in Chapter 1. That's not entirely lost here, but I would say a significant portion certainly is. Honestly, It Chapter 2 being the big event horror film that it is, again, is just enough of a recommendation for me. This is just so fun to go and experience with people. I was in a packed crowd last night, and it was really fun. It was just a fun experience. I had some problems while I was watching it, but as soon as I started writing up my thoughts on it, I was like, that was fun. I kind of want to go again. And I'm like, no, you don't need to go again. It's not that good. But overall, it was not a waste of time. It was not a complete stinker, but it's a mixed bag, and the sum of its parts is just kind of a Franken movie that works at times and is interesting and fun at times, and then incredibly questionable other times, like most of the time. It's like really half and half. Like you're really just going for the fun of it. That's what I would say. Like go for the fun and the scare sequences and the wild bonkersness of it, but then also know that there are stupid things, like a Shining reference that just, why? Why was that? I don't know why that was there. And that might be really fun for some people. Like, I am all about the Easter eggs, especially in Stephen King stuff, because that's actually organic to his work. But I really felt like this was just a thing that was really stupid, and you'll know exactly what I mean when you see it. But overall, It Chapter 2 was fun. It was an experience movie. I mean, I'm not saying I'm gonna go see it a whole bunch of times, but I might actually add it to my film collection just to pair with the first one. Just because, but I certainly wouldn't rewatch it as much as the first one. However, I think this one could be fun with some drinks. Definitely go see It Chapter 2. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm gonna give this one a 2.5 out of 5 because, again, it's just completely middle of the road, and I just have to explain. I know that immediately sounds like, oh, that's like a 50%. That's just horrible. Movie grades aren't just entirely mathematical. To me, it's like there are categories. And this film falls into a category where it's like, I had fun with it. I don't think it's an incredible success in terms of what it's setting out to do, in terms of matching the first one. However, I do again think that it's fun and it's going to be an enjoyable experience for you, and I enjoyed seeing it. However, I think it is flawed in many ways. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you did. Let me know your favorite parts. What were your favorite scare scenes, your favorite jokes, or your favorite crappy scenes that put this in bad movie territory? I love it all. I'm perfectly fine with an amalgamation film, and that's kind of what this is. There are things that I was like, yes, slam dunk, and then stuff that I was like, why? Thank you so much for watching my review of It Chapter 2. Feel free to like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in my next video.